Something's wrong with that kid.
Kevin Spencer.
That don't like it, never did.
Something's wrong with that kid.
He's a teen-smoking alcoholic sociopath. You better not cross his path.
Kevin Spencer.
He's a teen-smoking alcoholic sociopath. Oh, not this crap again.
What's going on, Kevin? You hear something?
Kevin told Alan that he had a dream and that they had to steal a car and hit the road as quick as they could because they needed to go on a journey.
You sure it ain't just the thinking part of your head getting all confused from the cough theorem?
Kevin had to agree that Alan's analysis made a certain amount of sense. Nevertheless, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something important he had to do. And since he didn't have a job, had pretty much given up on school, and for the most part hated living with his self-serving alcoholic parents, he couldn't really see any reason not to go.
Once again, the goose has been trumped by the clear and analytical machinations of your mind. Let us depart.
Let us depart indeed, said Kevin, but first, let us steal all of my parents' money and cigarettes.
How you ain't won a fucking Nobel Prize yet is beyond me. Now what is we gonna do?
Kevin pretty much knew that the old man wouldn't let him steal his wallet or lend him money and cigarettes. But he also knew he had a bad heart, so Kevin figured the very best thing to do was to frighten him so severely that he had another stroke and was unable to defend himself when Kevin took his stuff.
Cruel yet funny, not to mention ingenious. Well, that didn't work for shit. Now what are we gonna do?
As near as Kevin could figure, if the old man was so liquored up that he didn't feel a good-sized firecracker exploding on his genitals, then he likely wouldn't hear them sneaking around and stealing his money and cigarettes.
It's like it's got some sort of psychic connection to his vices. This may be more difficult than first envisioned.
Kevin agreed with his imaginary friend that it would indeed be an onerous chore, but that they owed it to themselves to make sure they didn't leave the house until his father was splayed on the floor, heinously impaired by a stroke and clutching his chest.
Remember, kids, just because something is difficult to do doesn't mean you should stop trying. Nobody likes a quitter.
The preceding message was brought to you by the Canadian Federation of Tobacco Growers and Distributors. For those under 18 and not concerned whether others think you are cool and can make your own decisions like an adult, please ignore.
Ah, fuck! Man beast! Oh, my eyes, they burn! Oh, fuck, there it goes. Your mother, naked, horrible, terrified, throat need doctor, and puke bucket.
Kevin told his dad that he would call for help from somewhere on the road if he remembered or started caring.
What in the name of sweet blessed hell is going on, boy?
Kevin told his imaginary friend Alan that he had seen a vision while he was sleeping and that he now knew what his mission on Earth was.
Ooh, so that's just superb. So do tell, my young rapscallion friend, do tell.
Kevin told the bird all in good time, because it lent an air of mystery to their whole adventure, and because he pretty much didn't have any clue what he was doing or why he was going. But he didn't want the bird to know that, because then he might think he was a moron.
Whatever. Don't mean shit to me one way or the other. You see, boy, I'm a figment of your imagination and exist wholly and entirely in the depleted wasteland of your head. So that means that this entire conversation is of your creation. In short, you hear voices.
Kevin started to laugh because he sometimes forgot he was mentally unbalanced, and whenever he had a rare moment of clarity on the issue, he couldn't help but think it was funny. Then he laughed so hard he lost control of the car and drove straight off a bridge, which he thought was less funny.
Save the smokes! Save the smokes! I told you should let me drive, but no.
Kevin wasn't real happy about losing the car, but this was no time to sit around and feel sorry for himself, because he had a mission to fulfill.
Are you okay, kid? I saw what happened, and since I am a good Samaritan and genuinely concerned for the well-being of my fellow man, I figured I'd come and see if you're all right.
Every year, people are killed by teenagers. Don't let yourself be one of them. Brought to you by the Federation of Paranoid Middle-Aged Fearmongers Terrified by Youth Culture.
Damn you, youth culture! Damn you to hell!
Oh, for the love of Pete!
As near as Kevin could figure, they were out of gas, mostly because the gas gauge said empty.
Well, ain't you just a fucking Einstein? Gee, how many years in science class did it take for you to possess such staggering power of deduction, oh wise one?
Kevin told Alan that he didn't much think sarcasm was doing a whole lot in the way of helping things.
So what now?
Kevin said not to worry, because the river was flowing in the right direction to take them to their destination.
Well, how in the fuck do you know that?
Kevin couldn't explain except to say that he had had a vision, and that he just knew they were still going in the right direction, but that there were many miles yet to travel.
Well, that's just grand, Columbus. And just so you know, I ain't doing no paddling.
As near as Kevin could figure, neither was he, since one of the best things about rivers outside of being a convenient place for major corporations to dump tons of toxic chemicals and waste was that the current did the work for you. As near as Kevin figured, as long as you were moving in the right direction, there wasn't much point in not just sitting and getting so hammered on cold medication that he passed out.
Stupid mountain goat thinks he's so cool. I'll show you.
Hey, kid! You look poor and unwashed, kid. I don't know what you think you're doing in this neighborhood, but you don't belong here.
Kevin told the man that it was a free country and that he could go anywhere he goddamn pleased.
Damn you to hell, you lower-class, poverty-stricken miscreant! If only there was some way to keep people like you out!
Still thinking gated communities aren't for you? Think again.
The schools are great, and I don't have to worry about leaving my doors unlocked.
It's about peace of mind and family values. I never felt this safe when I lived on the outside.
I don't have to worry about my kids getting involved with drugs and drive-by shootings because there aren't any dirty immigrants living here.
Just because you feel sorry for poor people and the coloreds doesn't mean you have to live with them. My mommy and daddy taught me that, and now I'm going to grow up happy.
Brought to you by the good people at White Heaven Acres, keeping the poor and colored people out since 1984.
Kevin didn't much care for the man's view on the current class structure of society, so he figured he'd strike a blow for poor people everywhere and crank him a sweet one in the knees with a boat oar. The man collapsed quicker than common sense at an NRA meeting.
Stupendous, Kevin. Now, let us steal his lawnmower and ride off and renew our progress towards, well, whatever the fuck it is we're doing. Go even slower, Kevin. See if you can get them sons of bitches even more angry.
Kevin sure did like the idea of annoying the people behind him, even more than he already had, so he decided to take things one step farther and just park the lawnmower in the middle of the lane right beside the bridge, just so none of the ignorant bastards could get uppity and pass on the shoulder. Then, to make sure no one got the bright idea of rolling the lawnmower out of the way, he snapped the key off in the ignition and kicked the shifter so it couldn't move out of park. Even though that was probably enough, he set the whole thing on fire anyway, mostly because he liked to watch things burn.
Uh-oh, boy. That there's an angry mob coming. We'd best hightail it the fuck out of here, lest we feel the wrath of their anger. Jesus, Kevin, your breathing is crazy heavy and erratic. Have a smoke and calm down.
Kevin wasn't a licensed physician, but he was pretty sure one of the last things you should do if you were having trouble breathing was to smoke. But since that was never the kind of thing he much cared about in the first place, and since he figured all doctors were blowhard a-holes, he figured that in the long run, it made more sense to listen to the advice of the imaginary talking bird that lived in his head.
Attaboy, Kevin, embrace your mental illness.
Yeah, got an extra one for a fellow man of the road?
Kevin hadn't noticed the unwashed homeless man in the corner, but now that he did, he also couldn't help but notice the man had a bottle of wine. And Kevin sure did like the idea of taking the edge off of what had so far been a pretty busy day.
Half that pack of smokes gets you half this bottle. Deal?
Don't jump the gun, boy. I mean, sure, we could be equitable and split our resources 50-50, or we could, I don't know, Kill him and take 100% of what we want?
There was no arguing that the upside of Alan's plan had a greater payout, but Kevin was tired and figured that offing the hobo would be a whole lot of work. So he agreed to trade some smokes for booze.
Thanks, kid. You're a lifesaver.
What a fortuitous turn of events! Let us pray to our gods in thanks.
It's a lovely day. Everything is where it should be. It's another day for you and me. As the time goes passing by, I know that we can get by. It's a lovely day. Everything is where it should be. It's another day for you and me.
Oh yeah, that's some good drunk. Now what?
Kevin told his imaginary friend that he could sense they were getting closer to their destination, but that there were still many miles to travel.
Well, if that's the case, the bird's gonna get some shut-eye.
Kevin was pretty tired too. He sure did like the idea of slipping into a long, hazy binge of semi-restless alcohol-induced sleep, because that was his favorite kind. Just before he nodded off, though, he imagined Alan passing wind so violently that he shot off like a rocket.
Hey, wake up. Hey! Jesus, you're just a kid. Riding the rails ain't safe, son. I'm supposed to arrest you, but... hell. I can't run in no kid. Tell you what, get your things and get out of here. If anyone asks, I never saw you. You all on your own, kid? Got any money? Okay, here you go, son. Now skedaddle and be careful stepping down.
He was a nice fella. Kind of restored your faith in mankind meeting someone like that.
As near as Kevin could figure, his personality pretty much bell-curved society back down to where it was.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm just saying, nice guy. So what's the skinny boy? Is this the place? Do you know for sure?
Kevin told his friend Alan that he was sure they were in the right spot and that their journey was complete.
Don't seem like much of fuck all is going on.
Kevin said to be patient, and that even though he didn't understand why, he felt it in his bones that something good was going to happen, and they were supposed to be here to witness it.
Kevin, I don't want to be a naysayer or nothing, but it's been a couple of days and, well, not much of anything seems to be happening, so I was thinking, Jesus, I should have never doubted you, boy.
Kevin had to agree, because if he'd learned one thing in his life, it was that if you ever had a chance to see an elderly blind person fall down, then you'd have to be plumb crazy not to take it. That speaks to the whole of mankind's capacity for intellectual enterprise.